What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're recapping the Philadelphia Eagles and their playoff debut. I almost said preseason. Their playoff debut in the divisional round, the number 1 seed against the number 6 seed Atlanta Falcons. They get the victory over the Falcons 15-10. And I guessed the Philadelphia Eagles scored correctly. I had the Eagles scoring 15 points, but I had them losing to the Falcons 20-15. It was opposite. The Eagles actually won 15-10. So, and you had to give it to the Eagles defense that did a phenomenal job guarding Julio Jones with corners like Jalen Mills, Jalen Mills is really not that bad as I thought he was, from the beginning of last year. And I mean, I'm just here to give some credit to the Eagles. As a Giants fan, as you clearly see, I was the biggest Atlanta Falcons supporter this week, and I was all about the Falcons. But you know how the Falcons are in the playoffs. They're just allergic to success and allergic to keeping a lead. You see that, at the end of the second half where Keanu Neal goes for the most dumbest interception I have ever seen in my life. He tried jumping for a ball that was at his hip, which made no sense. I guess he was really jittery, really happy he was in the playoffs or something, and happy he thought he was going to get an interception. He tried jumping to get a pick that was already at his hips. Like, it made no sense. That was an easy interception, badly thrown ball by Nick Foles in the triple coverage, and it wound up being a completed pass. I forgot who held it in. I think it was Matt Collins hold it in, and Nick Foles came on in the second half, but he did not have a great first half. Like, he was missing open guys everywhere, missing Zach Ertz, missing Matt Collins. I believe he missed Alshon Jeffrey once or twice, but you got to give it to that Eagles defense who really came on for, really picked up the slack for the offense in the beginning of the game. You're talking about a team that got a touchdown, missed the extra point. Jake Elliott missed the extra point. And, nothing went the Eagles' way except, Keanu Neal's stupid failed interception, tip pass. I believe it was Matt Collins that caught that ball. And they go all the way to field goal range. I believe it was a 53-yard field goal or something like that. And, of course, Jake Elliott hits it. He only hits the field goals that matter. When it comes to something that doesn't, a 25-yarder or something, he'll miss, like he did when he first was on the Eagles. He missed a kick with the Giants and hits a 61-yarder at the end of the game. He only makes kicks that really matter. So, but it's whatever. It got the Eagles the win. Like I said, you're talking about the Eagles offense that scored a touchdown but couldn't get the extra point, and then field goals from there on out. I don't understand, but you got to give it to that Atlanta's offense at the end of the game. They had a methodical drive on their final drive. They got as close. You can't get any closer. Except to the 1-yard line, but they were on the 2-yard line, 2 or 3-yard line, and it was 4th down and goal. And by the way, that Julio Jones reception to get to that point on 3rd and goal, to make it 4th and goal, I don't believe that was a completed catch. The ball came out and it was touching the ground at the time. I wouldn't count that as a catch. The referees don't even know what a catch is. So yeah, they would have still had to been farther back, but nonetheless, they still didn't get the touchdown. Of course, Matt Ryan rolls right to where Julio Jones is, and Julio Jones is not able to make the catch on 4th down. Therefore, icing the game. That was it. That was it for the game. That was 4th down for them. And a lot of people may say that Jalen Mills had a pass interference call. It was not. Julio Jones clearly tripped on that play, and Jalen Mills had his hands on him, but really did not make a difference in Julio Jones, whether he tripped or fell. Jalen Mills actually had some pretty decent coverage there. Just had his hands on him because when you have your hands on a receiver, or you're in your defender, you have your hands on your receiver, it kind of just, it annoys them. It's gonna, make them weary, of that somebody's on them, and make them aware that somebody's on them. So good play by Jalen Mills there, nonetheless. So moving on, Atlanta, of course, allergic to success. Happens all the time. Especially like I believe when they played the Giants back in 2011. We beat them 24-2, and I believe that Atlanta was favored in that game and we dominated them. It just happens to the Atlanta Falcons in the playoffs. It's just what it is. So moving on to the stats. Let's go on to the stats. Nick Foles had himself a good game. I told you guys he had to have a good game in order for them to win. Look what happened in the first half. You guys did not look good. The Eagles did not look good in the first half because of Nick Foles. he was just, I mean, they could have had plenty more points. There were wide open receivers everywhere. The Atlanta Falcons defense did not play well. They just fed off the mulligans by Nick Foles. I'm trying to get to the stats here. So Nick Foles, 23 out of 30, 246 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and he was sacked one time for 8 yards. Had a QB rating of 47.4 and a quarterback rating of 100.1, so that's a big ratio right there. And Matt Ryan, 22 of 36, 210 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. I mean, he did not play that bad. Matt Ryan actually had a couple great plays. I'm talking about 3 or 4, and they were on like third. All of them were on third down. He was being pressured in the pocket, was able to dump it off to Devontae Freeman a couple times, and that was a pretty, especially that touchdown play. That was a great touchdown play. You know, in a play where it should have been a touchdown to play before, where he could have threw it to Levine Toilolo, completely delayed it for whatever reason. That's supposed to be your first read on a rollout. The commentator said it already. What was it, Chris Collinsworth? He said it already. I mean, that should have been your first read. That is your first read. When that guy's butt naked open, you throw to him, and he had an wide open touchdown right there. Don't know what was going through Matt Ryan's head, but anyway, he made up for it. You know, was being pressured in the pocket. Brandon Graham almost got to him, flipped it over to Devontae Freeman, who was pretty open there. Shouldn't have been that open, especially shallow there. You know, you're supposed to be protecting the sticks that close in the red zone while the quarterback is pressured like that. Supposed to be protecting the sticks, but you know, that's beyond that. So yeah, great job by Matt Ryan there, but couldn't get it done. As far as rushing for Atlanta went, I mean, not much of anything. Devontae Freeman had 10 carries for 7 yards, and Tevin Coleman had quite the opposite. He had himself a great day on the ground. 10 carries, 79 yards, 7.9 yards to carry. So great job by Tevin Coleman there. Devontae Freeman, I mean, I think he's like, what is he, the highest paid running back in the league right now, and he puts up that kind of performance in the playoffs. That's not what you want to see from your highly paid Devontae Freeman at running back. We move on to the Philadelphia side at rushing, and they, their stats don't jump out the page at you when it comes to rushing. Jay Ajayi had himself a decent day on the ground, 15 carries, 54 yards, and 3.6 yards to carry. That's nothing crazy, but he was able to get the yards when they were needed. When they needed to convert on third down, he did that. LeGarrette Blount did the same thing, even though his stats really don't say it. 9 carries, 19 yards, and a touchdown. That touchdown was clutch there. He had some good vision to kick it to the outside, and then he also converted some third down plays as well. Also had a play where he just did not want to go down once or twice. It was a good play by LeGarrette Blount. Corey Clement, who had 1 carry for 5 yards, and then I don't know what they did. Philadelphia, you have 2 huge bruising backs in LeGarrette Blount and Jay Ajayi. You could choose any of those backs. You choose to go with Corey Clement at the goal line. He fumbles the ball. Nick Foles was able to recover the ball. And I think it was Brian Poole that was closing up on it. Brian Poole, Desmond Trufant. It was Poole. It was Brian Poole who was closing up on it. He could have had that football, in a millisecond. A millisecond later, and he could have had that football instead of Nick Foles. So boneheaded move by Doug Peterson. Don't know why he decided to throw Corey Clement in, but they were able to make up for that. Like I said, next play, it was LeGarrette Blount, 1-yard touchdown. So great job there. And then moving on to the defensive side of the ball, to the Atlanta receiving, Julio Jones had himself a day. He was putting on a show. 9 receptions, 101 yards. On 16 targets. That's not good. To only be catching 9 balls out of 16 targets. That's a decent ratio. That's a decent amount of balls caught for how much times he was targeted, but you would like to see that number closed up a little bit. Mohamed Sanu was next up with 3 receptions for 50 yards. Devontae Freeman tried to do something in the receiving game because he couldn't do anything in the running game. 5 receptions, 26 yards, and nothing else really matters there. And I got to give credit to where credit is due. And Nick Foles, he was spreading the ball around pretty nicely. If you look at these numbers, guys, you got Alshon Jeffrey, 4 receptions, 61 yards on 5 targets, which is very good. Jay Ajayi was their second leading receiver, 3 receptions, 44 yards on 5 targets. Torrey Smith, 3 for 39 on 4 targets. Zach Ertz, 3 for 32 on 5 targets. And Corey Clement, 5 for 31 on 5 targets, so he was able to hit all the targets there. I mean, he just did a great job at spraying the ball around. Nick Foles did. You know, he could have had plenty more yards if he was able to hit his receivers in the beginning of the game. But you know, it is what it is. The Atlanta Falcons go home, and the Philadelphia Eagles have a task ahead of them, as they will either be facing the New Orleans Saints or the Minnesota Vikings, at home. But listen, and this is not coming from the Philadelphia hater in me. This is not coming from the Giants fan. But whoever wins this game against the Minnesota Vikings and New Orleans Saints, I still think the Philadelphia Eagles are the underdog, and I think you guys should be proud of that, to be the underdog, even though you guys are the #1 seed. But you know, without Carson Wentz, I'm just scared Nick Foles will. I just don't think you guys will win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles. I just don't think it will happen. Now, I know Trent Dilfer did it, ironically, against my Giants, and you know, Jeff Hostetler did it. You know, a couple backup quarterbacks did it, but I don't know. I just don't see it happening, especially with Minnesota and New Orleans. I mean, these two teams are primed to win a Super Bowl. One of these teams, and it sucks that they can't be part of the conference championships. I would have loved that as the conference championships, but you know, should they face New Orleans or Minnesota, Philadelphia, they're going to have a task ahead of them, because New Orleans defense is nothing to joke around about anymore. Now with Marshawn Lattimore coming into the game, and him being a huge primary reason why that New Orleans defense is good. And then Minnesota, who I think is the second best defense in the NFL right now, right behind the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they're going to have a task ahead of them. They're going to be the underdogs in their own stadium, but it is what it is. Philadelphia moves on to conference championships. We'll see what they do. Doug Peterson in his second season as head coach. Will he win a Super Bowl in his second season as a head coach? We'll see. But we're watching this game right now. It's already 4 minutes in, with the New England Patriots dominating the Tennessee Titans, and we'll get to that game when we get there. But Mike Mularkey is making some stupid calls. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.